blew past that.
All right, we're good now.
We're good?
Perfect.
Ended up over 400.
All right, let's call this meeting to order. Welcome to City Council. We're only a couple minutes off, so. Okay, please call the roll.
Brown.
Here.
Ely. Here. Godwin.
Here.
Norris.
Here.
Rogers.
Here.
Schmidt.
Here.
Whitaker.
Here. Everyone, please stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Approval of the minutes. You should have received a copy of the minutes. Any additions or corrections? If not, those will stand approved. Approval of the current financial report.
So moved.
Got a motion by Mr. Godwin to approve the current financial report. Discussion? Call the roll.
Brown.
Yes.
Ely. Yes. Godwin.
Yes.
Norris.
Yes.
Rogers.
Yes.
Schmidt.
Yes.
Whitaker.
Yes. Approval of the agenda. We do have one item right now on number 1, the supplemental ordinance. One item to add on that. I don't think there's anything else to add at this time.
Motion to approve the agenda as amended.
I have a motion by Mr. Godwin to approve the agenda as amended. Discussion? Call the roll.
Brown.
Yes.
Ely. Yes. Godwin.
Yes.
Norris.
Yes.
Rogers.
Yes.
Schmidt.
Yes.
Whitaker.
Yes. All right, moving on to public hearings. We have no scheduled public hearings, but the mic is open. Anyone wishing to address council, please state your name, your address, and your business.
Good evening, Jeff Serber, 310 East Park Drive. Let's see here. Okay, I'll try not to be too lengthy here. So I hope you guys all got, I emailed Jessica Swan yesterday and Steve Woolman, a kind of a snapshot of the housing study. So Vote Strategic Insights, I reached out to them. They performed a housing study for Frontier on 121. I reached out to them direct and said, can I get like a trimmed down version so that everyone can read through it and kind of understand some of the important points about housing in kind of Greenville in general. If you all have it handy. It's not, what I just handed out to you is just kind of a simple infographic thing where you could just see some points that will come out of this housing study. So in your response, do you guys have it? What Jessica emailed you?
Yes, I got one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent. Okay, so basically, I just cruised through it to try to simplify it for you. If you go to page 2, you'll see that what they defined as the PMA, the primary market area for this type of housing. And if you look at the map, it's constrained, it's predominantly Greenville Township. It extends a little bit further south. So it encompasses some of Wayne Lakes, Abbotsville, and then gets Coal Town and a little bit further east. So what I want to talk about here on page 2 is if you look at column 1 and then column 3, which would be the 2010 census compared to the 2022 census, which is an estimate based upon a trend from the 2020 census. So I'm not familiar if everyone knows how that works, but they just estimate, based on prior year where this is all trending. And so if you take the 24 and under and you consolidate them and compare them from 2010 to 2022, and you take the 55 and up and compare them from 2010 to 22, you end up with this, these details right here that I sent you, that I handed out. So what you'll find is that from the 2010 to 2020 census, the population of Darke County decreased 2%. Greenville decreased 0.5%, which is better than the county overall. I think, it's just indicative of people migrating from the rural areas to the villages, municipalities. But Greenville Township some interesting thing happening with the total demographics. In that time, age 55 and above increased by 12.1%, but age 24 and younger decreased by 12.8%. What you're going to find is, if you mine through this data a little bit, is that young people, and especially young people with families, are leaving, and they're being replaced by elderly people. And meaning 55 and above. I mean, whatever, however you want to define elderly, I don't know. But let's see here. So then on page 4, so I guess what I was getting at is on page 2, their area that they're looking for is Greenville and the surrounding area. They're not looking to finance or justify this project based on imports from Dayton or far off. I like this town, but not everybody wants to move here, and I don't see a lot of people from Dayton clamoring to move here. So I just want you to understand that. So if you go to page 4, there are a couple lines of importance. In the first paragraph, what would be the second sentence, only one LIHTC property is within the site PMA, which is fully occupied and has a reported waiting list in excess of 18 months, highlighting the pent-up demand for affordable senior housing. That's talking about Fox Run. Fox Run is the only equivalent to what these two developers were pitching, especially Frontier, who had individual separate units with garages. Wood Cooper's had a complex. Complex is more efficient, but the Frontier's development is kind of more what you guys are suited to seeing. And I think the mayor specifically liked that better. And then if you go down to the end, the second to the last sentence in the last paragraph, the lack of senior renters can be partially attributed to the lack of modern rental units to serve this age group. So Fox Run was built in 2006, 17 years old. There hasn't been anything else new come online to serve these people specifically. There is a huge pent-up demand, which can be indicated by the 18-month wait list. And not only that, you can see why that is from the changing demographics. So I just wanted to boil it down to a couple points for you guys. If you have any questions for me, I think you all have my contact information, or I'll be happy to provide it if needed. This is kind of my interest, real estate, and I'd be happy to help answer any questions. I'd like this to be a little bit interactive, so if we're going along, do you guys have any questions for me? Feel free to ask. So let's see here. Then I want to talk about the income side of things. So their income requirements would be different depending on if it was a couple or single. And I think it's roughly 35, 38,000 and 32,000. And then they have percentages. What it boils down to is if we pick a figure of 35,000, which comfortably covers it, this isn't just a small fraction of the town. So as you see here on my sheet that passed out, 41.4% of households in the city of Greenville, in the corporation, make less than $35,000 a year. I found that to be an alarming figure. I guessed it at 20 or 25%. I imagine you guys feel the same way about it, but it's a much bigger figure. We're not talking about a few people here and there. It's 4 out of every 10 people you see in town. So again, if you have any comments, feel free. I'd love to talk about this. So I feel to deny this housing would be doing a disservice to a large portion of the population, because we talked about growth. In the past, you've talked about growth. I know it's been commented multiple times that we're in a growing town, and there's just been a lot of activity. I'm not seeing that same thing. I would very much wish it to be, but I'm just not seeing indications of it. As far as housing goes, we've had, I think, Bonanzas, and then the build out at South School, and then the build out of the 5 acres by Darren Lease at the end of Driftwood. I'm very happy for those developments, but they're a small fraction compared to what they should be in a town of our size. Versailles has 2 developments going. Arcanum is finishing up one, has another new one coming online, and Sonia's looking at one. We should be having 2 new subdivisions happening right now. So I want everybody to be on the same page as for information. So then I want to talk about the voters, because I would think everybody here is elected. The voters are kind of an important part of this. So in the last general election, 69.4% of the voters were age 65 or older. So nearly 7 out of 10 voters that, I know we have a mayoral race going here. I don't know if anybody's up for council or not, but that's an important consideration on this project too, because the people who would occupy this are likely voters, and they're the largest audience out there. And they happen to also be the low-income folks. Dolores, back on November 7th, I listened to the meeting again. You kind of separated the senior with the low income. They're much the same group. Whether they're on Social Security, whatever the income source is, they overlap. And I hope that that's understood too. And I hope, at the very least, I kind of convert your view of who the low income folks are, or help you understand what I get out of this data. Any comments or anything?
I would like to say something about, the income level that you're talking about. Fortunately for me, I do fit in that demographic. Okay, I'm 70, I just had my 73rd birthday. I fit in that demographic. But fortunately for me, my home, I'm a senior citizen. I'm not going anywhere. I've lived here all my life. My home's paid for. So, I understand that there is a need, but of these people that you're talking about, 41.4, I'd be interested to know who's like me, who owns their home, who has no mortgage. I'd like to know that. I'm not disagreeing with your figures, but I'm just saying there are other criteria as well.
Sure, I don't know your specific situation, but as was said by Todd Valentine the last meeting, the predominance or the typical audience for the housing would be a widow. That's, I think he said 68. I don't recall the exact age he said. So at the point you own your home, at the point that you can't justify or can't afford or don't want to mess with maintaining it, you're likely to sell your residence and move to some other occupancy. Likely one where you don't have to mess with that stuff. And I think that's what he's getting at with the product. And I appreciate your comment. I like interaction. It helps.
You got it.
Jeff, you and I talked recently, and I think, you were asking what I was thinking. And the number here, the age 24 and younger, declined by 12.8%. Age 55 and over is increasing by 12.1%. To me, that's a rather alarming statistic.
I agree.
And so this development here is geared towards these numbers to answer the problem addressed by these numbers, but what it does is kind of capitulates, throws up the white flag at saying that we're not going to go for younger people to come into Greenville.
And so that on the contrary, so let us say you have, say Dolores' instance, where she's in a house, let's assume she's by herself, I don't know, and she decides she doesn't want to maintain it anymore, and there is some other housing option, she goes to it. First thing she does, she lists her house or puts it up for sale by owner, whichever, and the likely candidate for that home is a younger couple.
I get that, but what if Dolores doesn't want to sell her house?
And do what?
And stays put. I mean, the house isn't for sale and she's not taking it.
That's her own prerogative.
Right,
I'm
right.
just saying, there's not going to be a lot of Doloreses, especially as time goes on.
There's only one of Dolores.
I can see that.
Oh, sure.
But the one thing I know for sure that is changing with the ages as time goes on is people want to maintain less and less. I see that with my age group, especially. They don't want to maintain anything. They want their time to use doing whatever it is they want. So, and I think also born out of the statistics, without getting too in the weeds on it, is that the people wanting to rent is increasing. People don't want to deal with it. Owning residence is a costly endeavor. It does take a lot of work on the weekends. So
We're gonna have to move forward here, Jeff, before we have anything else.
I'm
Wrap it up then?
Yeah.
If we got
Okay,
something.
so, real quick, I just want to talk about the grandkids thing. I think that's kind of an appeals to the extreme, because it kind of requires kind of a situation where you gotta do a hypothetical grandkid who's a vagrant that then has to get into this housing complex with it's kind of a murky thing. I've heard that said a couple times, but I never heard it said on South School or Driftwood. If we're out of time, I do want to talk about one thing real quick. The one person that complained consistently on this type of development, Nancy Myers, she talked about that this isn't smart development. During her tenure, all of these places came in. But I didn't know she was a landlord. And if the idea is that landlords are scared of this housing, they really should reconsider, because the best thing that can happen to this town is for growth. You increase the demand on your product, the house, the rental that you own, and possibly increase your rent. So that's all I have to say to that. I appreciate you guys taking the time to hear me, and I hope you dive into the info, and feel free to email me or call me if you have any questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff.
Anyone else wishing to address council?
Well, I just want my name is Janet Dieter, and I live at 303 East Harmon, and I want to give you an update because I am still pursuing this thing with AES. And I found out a few extra things over the last 2 weeks. People are approaching me more and more. People didn't even know that these meters were being put in. AES is not hanging on door tags like they promised that they would. They have not called people. They have not sent any letters. I did get a letter, so I started asking people, did you get a letter? No, they didn't get a letter. No door hanger, nothing. So AES is going back on their words. You heard them speak that night where that lady said, oh, well, so they forgot one. That's not true. I talked to a neighbor last night. She didn't even know what I was talking about. So she was going to go out and check. A neighbor last week called me. What were you doing on my property? I was just checking to see if I had the AES meter. What's that? The smart meter. Don't know anything about it. Did you get a door hanger? No, whatever. So the one thing that I have discovered, that as I do more and more research, that the amount that they're charging to opt out, that is not the same across the board, even though the people from AES, I talked to them on the phone and they assured me it was. It is not. Some states aren't even charging the fee of $98.89. They're forgoing that. And then my brother, who lives 13 minutes away from my house up by Massinawa, has AEP, which is, he's not in Indiana because he lives on Young Road. But anyway, they're not charging the fee for opting out, and they're only charging $24 a month, where I'm being charged $37. So that I don't quite understand. I do plan on writing a letter to the utilities company, but it does bother me that these people are putting these meters in and not telling people. I wish the council maybe had made some kind of an announcement so people could have attended it, because people are at a loss. But I had the most interesting phone call, because after I turned it down, deep in our AES called me and they said, are you still opting out? And I said, yes. And so when I was here at the last meeting, I don't forget who asked me, or I asked them, what are they using that $100 for? And I said, I'm going to check into that. And so I asked the lady that. I said, what are you using that $98.89? And she goes, well, if your meter should break, it's to repair it. So I repeated it back and I said, oh, suppose my meter breaks? Or maybe if my meter breaks? Or perhaps if my meter breaks? It's going to repair that, right? Yeah, that's why we're charging you $98.89. And so I called my brother and I told him what she said. He says that's a lie because the meter belongs to them. And because it belongs to them, they have no right to charge me to fix it. So I just want to keep you in tune in what's going on, because I don't know if you watch the news, but when I called them today, because I also found out that they could possibly estimate my reading. So they used to do it, they'd read 1 month, estimate the next, and read 1 month, estimate the next. So I wanted to find out how they were going to do that. And they said, well, normally we're going to come out there and read your meter. But suppose you don't, I asked her. And she says, well, you're going to notice that on your bill. I go, how will I know that? She says, there'll be an E. And it's where it shows how much electricity you're using. And she goes, that means we estimated it. So my question is, if they estimate my bill, are they going to charge me $36, $37 a month, even though they're not even coming in? So I'm going to keep track of it. And I just want to let you guys know, because there's probably going to be some people now starting to question this, especially if their bill starts to double, especially if they're being estimated and not read when they promised you, and they're taking money from you to pay for that person to come out. So that's what I'm finding out. And if I find anything else out, I'll be back in 2 weeks. I'll let you know.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Andy Roberts, 527 Markwith Avenue. Just real quick, 2 things. Number 1, I'd like to just inform everybody of our Lenten services starting tomorrow, going every Wednesday up till Easter. It will be at St. Paul Lutheran Church at 12 o'clock. I will leave copies of these downstairs for anybody that is interested. And number 2, just want to speak very briefly about the zoning for the housing for the seniors. I had an opportunity to speak with Mr. Valentine during the past week because there were some questions that I had. And one of the main questions that I had for him is why you chose Greenville, why you chose Dark County. And Jeff kind of talked a little bit about that, about the survey, about the need for housing. And the Office of the Bishop, we deal with 2 major issues, and they're both kind of related together. Number 1, homelessness and housing. The local churches here in Dark County, we fund community unity. And in 2021, they spent $13,000. 2022, you know how much they spent? Over $50,000. So it went from $13,000 to $50,000. That's a humongous jump. And one of the main reasons why that is because of housing. Most of our agencies in this area are maxed out and stretched thin because we have a housing crisis. What are we saying if we say no to this project? What are we telling other developers that will hear of it and other people who would like to invest in Greenville as well? We are going to have a persona of not being business friendly or being for economic development. If you say no, nobody's going to want to touch Greenville, and we'll be holding our city back for years. It was mentioned about waiting, but waiting could cost us $10 million in a investment towards our seniors. Councilman Ely, I know you have talked about many times about having a senior center for our seniors. Well, one of the things that they are wanting to put there in this investment is a place for seniors. And while it's not for all seniors in our community, it's just for them there, it's a step in the right direction. If Greenville and our local leaders showed their support, what is to stop them from investing another $10 million after they complete this, or another $20 million after that? Instead, they're going to push them to another city that would appreciate their investments. And what we will end up with is nothing. So in closing, I believe 3 big issues that we face here in Greenville. Number 1, drugs. I think everybody agrees with that. Number 2, homelessness. And number 3, housing. So you have an opportunity tonight to vote yes and to find a solution for our seniors in this housing crisis. So I would encourage you to vote yes.
Anyone else wishing to address council? If not, we're going to move on to administrative reports. Mr. Mayor.
So evening, everyone. Thanks for coming up. I'm filling in tonight for the mayor. He's feeling a little sick, so Mr. Mayor, I hope you get feeling better. I see you on the screen. And with that, I will pass.
Moving forward, law director, or I'm sorry, safety service director. Got ahead of myself.
Are they interchangeable?
Thank you, Mr. President. Just a few things for tonight. First of all, we had our Yellow Park restrooms bid opening last Tuesday, and we did not receive any bids. So now it's back to the drawing board to regroup on the project and see where that takes us. So we're still going to keep trying to move it forward, but at this point, no bids were offered. Second, I'd like to give a big thank you, and we'll do we're going to do a post about it here later in the week, but yesterday, we had a group of about 10 high schoolers that are with Careers with Children that contacted me last week and said, hey, we want to do something for the community. We want to paint over some graffiti. I was like, yep, absolutely. They went to, they took the bull by the horns, went to Sherwin-Williams, got the paint donated, all the supplies donated, rounded up the kids, all signed waivers, and their teacher came out and took pictures, and our police met them down there to make sure they didn't have any problems and painted over some of the graffiti. So some good positive work there done by those high school students.
That under the Broadway Bridge?
They did under like the trestle area down that way. And next step is to do the Broadway Bridge. And just want to let everyone know that it's looking like March 28th, our K-9 Otts and his handler, Officer Hall, will be graduating from K-9 school, so we can get him out and working.
Awesome.
And with that, I will pass.
Very good. Let's try this again. Law director, Mr. Eames.
Council President, I'll get to it before Roxanne can. We had talked before about the Tax Appeals Board needed a person. Judge Fleeman previously sat on that board and he resigned. I was able to talk to Attorney Jim Detling. They did want another attorney to fill his shoes, and he has graciously agreed to accept your appointment. So at some point this evening, we would need to vote on that to appoint him to the Tax Appeals Board.
Very good.
And that's all. I'll entertain any questions.
All right, moving on. Auditor, Mrs. Woman.
Thank you, Mr. Council President. I would like you to go ahead and vote for that at this point in time.
Okay, we can do that now. So basically, we're just.
You just need a motion to appoint Jim Detling to the Tax Appeal Board.
So moved. All right. Motion by Mr. Brown to approve Jim Detling to the Tax Appeal Board. Any discussion? Call the roll.
Brown,
Yes.
Ely,
Yes.
Godwin,
Yes.
Norris,
Yes.
Rogers.
Yes.
Schmidt.
Yes.
Whitaker.
Yes.
Okay, moving on to committee reports. We do have 3 committee reports tonight. First one out of the Law Committee.
Honorable council members, the Law Committee met on January 17th and again on February 7th to discuss itinerant vendors going door to door. On January 17th, it was discussed to double the rates to a sum of $250. During the February 7th meeting, the decision was made to completely do away with door-to-door permits, as it was confusing to elderly citizens due to a majority of the itinerant vendors representing electric companies. Sincerely submitted, Chairman Leon Rogers, Vice Chairman Brian Brown, and Member Dolores Ely.
Make a motion to accept the committee report.
Motion by Mr. Godwin to accept the committee report. Discussion? Call the roll.
Brown,
Yes.
Ely,
Yes.
Godwin,
Yes.
Norris.
Yes.
Rogers.
Yes.
Schmidt.
Yes.
Whitaker.
Yes.
All right. Moving on, then we have 2 out of the Finance Committee.
On February 15th, 2023, the Finance Committee met to discuss the distribution of community funds. The committee decided that the following organizations will receive these funds for the year. Dark County Visitors Bureau, $5,000. Main Street Greenville, $30,000. Dark County Historical Society, $250. Dark County Horseshoe Ohio State Tournament, $1,500. Dark County Horseshoe Ringer Classic Tournament, $1,500. Community Events Appropriation, that's supposed to be $1,500.
I think that's right.
Okay, $15,500. Annie Oakley Committee, $1,500. Greenville Girls Softball Association, $2,700. Back to Blue Committee, $1,000. Dark County United Way, 211 sponsorship, $1,000. Firework Reserve, $14,000. Union Cemetery, $5,000. Total of funds given, $78,950. For the 2024 budget, Union Cemetery will possibly be moved to a different line item. Thank you for your consideration. Doug Schmidt, Chairman, Jeff Whitaker, Vice Chairman, and Leon Rogers, Member.
Move to accept the committee report.
Motion by Mr. Whitaker to accept the committee report. Discussion? Call the roll.
Brown?
Yes.
Ely?
Yes.
Godwin?
Yes.
Norris?
Yes.
Rogers?
Yes.
Schmidt?
Yes.
Whitaker?
Yes.
And we have a second one out of the Finance Committee.
On February 15, 2023, the Finance Committee met to discuss compensation for Clerk of Council and Clerk of Planning and Zoning. It is recommended that each of these positions receive 3 hours minimum pay at their hourly rate. Thank you for your consideration. Doug Schmidt, Chairman, Jeff Whitaker, Vice Chairman, and Leon Rogers, Member.
Motion to accept the report.
Motion by Mr. Brown to accept the committee report. Discussion? Call the roll.
Brown?
Yes.
Ely?
Yes.
Godwin?
Yes.
Norris?
Yes.
Rogers?
Yes.
Schmidt?
Yes.
Whitaker?
Yes.
Should we add those now? Okay. For each of these committee reports, there is actually legislation prepared, but we'll need a motion to amend the agenda at this point. Okay. Motion by Mr. Rogers to amend the agenda and add the legislation for these committee reports. Discussion? Call the roll.
Brown?
Yes.
Ely?
Yes.
Godwin?
Yes.
Norris?
Yes.
Rogers?
Yes.
Schmidt?
Yes.
Whitaker?
Yes.
So that becomes 8, 9, and 10, correct? Okay. All right, moving on to ordinances and resolutions. With those additions, now we have 10 items to consider. The first one is a supplemental ordinance. Go ahead.
An ordinance to make additional appropriations for current expenses and other expenditures of the City of Greenville, State of Ohio during the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2023. This supplemental ordinance allows for appropriations in the General Fund, Wastewater Reserve Fund, and Capital Improvement Plan Fund in the sum as follows. CIP transfers elected auditor and treasurer in the amount of $8,419.18. These funds are needed for transfer to the CIP fund. Refunds general administration in the amount of $1,000. These funds are needed to cover the refund of an insurance overpayment. Gas, oil, and vehicle maintenance, fire department in the amount of $500. These funds are needed for supplies and were provided by an Ohio EMS grant. New equipment, fire department in the amount of $3,500. These funds are needed for a set of turnout gear for a new employee due to an unexpected vacancy. Equipment maintenance, warning sirens in the amount of $3,800. These funds are needed to cover the 2023 maintenance agreement for weather warning sirens. Transfer wastewater reserve in the amount of $400,277.27. These funds are needed to close out the wastewater reserve fund to the wastewater replacement and improvement fund. Wagner Avenue Road Widening Project CIP in the amount of $8,419.18. These funds are needed to cover the city's share of the project loan payment.
Make a motion to suspend the rules on this ordinance and read it by title only, second and third time.
Motion by Mr. Godwin to suspend the rules, give this ordinance a second, third reading by title only. Discussion? Call the roll.
Brown?
Yes.
Ely?
Yes.
Godwin?
Yes.
Norris?
Yes.
Rogers?
Yes.
Schmidt?
Yes.
Whitaker?
Yes.
An ordinance to make additional appropriations for current expenses and other expenditures of the City of Greenville, State of Ohio during the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2023. An ordinance to make additional appropriations for current expenses and other expenditures of the City of Greenville, State of Ohio during the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2023.
Move to adopt the ordinance.
Motion by Mr. Rogers to adopt. Discussion? Call the roll.
Brown?
Yes.
Ely?
Yes.
Godwin?
Yes.
Norris?
Yes.
Rogers?
Yes.
Schmidt?
Yes.
Whitaker?
Yes.
All right, moving on, number 2, we have a transfer ordinance.
An ordinance for the transfer of funds among the appropriations of the various funds of the city of Greenville. This transfer ordinance allows for a transfer in the general fund in the sum as follows. $3,000 from Travel and Education Fire Department to New Equipment Fire Department. These funds are needed to cover the unexpected expense of turnout gear for Tyler Cook.
Move to suspend the rules and give this ordinance a second and third reading by title only.
Motion by Mr. Whitaker to give this ordinance a second and third reading by title only. Discussion? Call the roll.
Brown?
Yes.
Ely?
Yes.
Godwin?
Yes.
Norris?
Yes.
Rogers?
Yes.
Schmidt?
Yes.
Whitaker.
Yes.
An ordinance for the transfer of funds among the appropriations of the various funds of the city of Greenville. An ordinance for the transfer of funds among the appropriations of the various funds of the city of Greenville.
Move to adopt.
Motion by Mr. Whitaker to adopt. Discussion?
Did he lose his original gear from when he was here previously, or? Perfect.
Any other discussion? Call the roll.
Brown?
Yes.
Ely?
Yes.
Godwin?
Yes.
Norris?
Yes.
Rogers?
Yes.
Schmidt?
Yes.
Whitaker.
Yes.
Okay, moving on, number 3, a refund ordinance to Speedway.
An ordinance refunding payments made to the city of Greenville from Speedway relating to utilities. This ordinance authorizes a refund to Speedway as they made an overpayment on their utility bill in the amount of $3,249.76.
Move to suspend the rules, give this ordinance second and third reading by title only.
Motion by Mr. Rogers to suspend the rules, give this ordinance a second and third reading by title only. Discussion? Call the roll.
Brown?
Yes.
Ely?
Yes.
Godwin?
Yes.
Norris?
Yes.
Rogers?
Yes.
Schmidt?
Yes.
Whitaker.
Yes.
An ordinance refunding payments made to the city of Greenville from Speedway relating to utilities. An ordinance refunding payments made to the city of Greenville from Speedway relating to utilities.
Move to adopt.
Motion by Mr. Brown to adopt. Discussion?
The large overpayment.
Yeah.
Call the roll.
Brown?
Yes.
Ely?
Yes.
Godwin?
Yes.
Norris?
Yes.
Rogers?
Yes.
Schmidt?
Yes.
Whitaker.
Yes.
All right, moving on, number 4, resolution for terms of an opioid settlement agreement.
A resolution to accept the material terms of the settlement agreement pursuant to the terms of opioid settlement agreement and to authorize the city solicitor and/or city safety service director to execute any related agreements. This resolution accepts the material terms of the opioid settlement agreement and authorizes the safety service director to execute any related agreements.
Make a motion to suspend the rules on this resolution and read it by title only second and third time.
I have a motion by Mr. Godwin to suspend the rules, give this resolution a second, third reading by title only. Discussion? Call the roll.
Brown?
Yes.
Ely?
Yes.
Godwin?
Yes.
Norris?
Yes.
Rogers?
Yes.
Schmidt?
Yes.
Whitaker.
Yes.
A resolution to accept the material terms of the settlement agreement pursuant to the terms of opioid settlement agreement and to authorize the city solicitor and/or city safety service director to execute any related agreements. A resolution to accept the material terms of the settlement agreement pursuant to the terms of opioid settlement agreement and to authorize the city solicitor and/or city safety service director to execute any related agreements.
Move to adopt the resolution.
Motion by Mr. Rogers to adopt the resolution. Discussion? Call the roll.
Brown?
Yes.
Ely?
Yes.
Godwin?
Yes.
Norris?
Yes.
Rogers?
Yes.
Schmidt?
Yes.
Whitaker.
Yes.
Okay, we have a resolution for disposition of no longer needed IT equipment on Gov Deals.
A resolution authorizing the disposition of no longer needed personal property. This resolution authorizes the disposition of no longer needed IT equipment on govdeals.com.
Move to suspend the rules, give this resolution second and third reading by title only.
Motion by Mr. Rogers to suspend the rules, give this resolution a second, third reading by title only. Discussion? Call the roll.
Brown?
Yes.
Ely?
Yes.
Godwin?
Yes.
Norris?
Yes.
Rogers?
Yes.
Schmidt?
Yes.
Whitaker.
Yes.
A resolution authorizing the disposition of no longer needed personal property. A resolution authorizing the disposition of no longer needed personal property.
Oh, goodness.
Move to adopt.
Motion by Mr. Rogers to adopt the resolution. Discussion? Call the roll.
Brown?
Yes.
Ely?
Yes.
Godwin?
Yes.
Norris?
Yes.
Rogers?
Yes.
Schmidt?
Yes.
Whitaker.
Yes.
We have a resolution authorizing the donation of no longer needed IT equipment to the Greenville City Schools.
A resolution authorizing the donation of no longer needed personal property. This resolution authorizes the donation of no longer needed IT equipment to the Greenville City School District.
Move to suspend the rules and give this resolution its second and third reading by title only.
Motion by Mr. Whitaker to suspend the rules, give this resolution a second, third reading by title only. Discussion? Call the roll.
Brown?
Yes.
Ely?
Yes.
Godwin?
Yes.
Norris?
Yes.
Rogers?
Yes.
Schmidt?
Yes.
Whitaker?
Yes.
A resolution authorizing the donation of no longer needed personal property. A resolution authorizing the donation of no longer needed personal property.
Move to adopt the resolution.
Motion by Mr. Rogers to adopt the resolution. Discussion? Call the roll.
Brown?
Yes.
Ely?
Yes.
Godwin?
Yes.
Norris?
Yes.
Rogers?
Yes.
Schmidt?
Yes.
Whitaker?
Yes.
Number 7, resolution authorizing donation of no longer needed IT equipment to the Dark County Sheriff's Office.
A resolution authorizing the donation of no longer needed personal property. This resolution authorizes the donation of no longer needed IT equipment to the Dark County Sheriff's Office.
Take a motion to suspend the rules on this resolution and read it by title only, second and third time.
Motion by Mr. Godwin to suspend the rules on this resolution and give it a second reading by title only. Second, third time, I'm sorry. Discussion? Call the roll.
Brown?
Yes.
Ely?
Yes.
Godwin?
Yes.
Norris?
Yes.
Rogers?
Yes.
Schmidt?
Yes.
Whitaker?
Yes.
A resolution authorizing the donation of no longer needed personal property. A resolution authorizing the donation of no longer needed personal property.
Move to adopt.
Motion by Mr. Whitaker to adopt. Discussion? Call the roll.
Brown?
Yes.
Ely?
Yes.
Godwin?
Yes.
Norris?
Yes.
Rogers?
Yes.
Schmidt?
Yes.
Whitaker?
Yes.
All right. Now,
It's for the itinerant vendors.
okay. Ordinance?
Yep.
Okay. Number 8 will be an ordinance that deals with that committee report on the itinerant vendors.
An ordinance amending ordinance 14-101 and sections 852.03, 852.05, and 852.06 regarding peddlers and itinerant vendors. This ordinance amends ordinance 14-101 and repeals sections 852.03, 852.05, and 852.06 of the Greenville Codified Ordinance to no longer allow itinerant vendors within the city.
Move to suspend the rules, give this ordinance second and third reading by title only.
Motion by Mr. Rogers to suspend the rules, give this ordinance a second and third reading by title only. Discussion? Call the roll.
Brown?
Yes.
Ely?
Yes.
Godwin?
Yes.
Norris?
Yes.
Rogers?
Yes.
Schmidt?
Yes.
Whitaker?
Yes.
An ordinance amending ordinance 14-101 and sections 852.03, 852.05, and 852.06 regarding peddlers and itinerant vendors. An ordinance amending ordinance 14-101 and sections 852.03, 852.05, and 852.06 regarding peddlers and itinerant vendors.
Motion to adopt.
Motion by Mr. Godwin to adopt the ordinance. Discussion? Call the roll.
Brown?
Yes.
Ely?
Yes.
Godwin?
Yes.
Norris?
Yes.
Rogers?
Yes.
Schmidt?
Yes.
Whitaker?
Yes.
It's a resolution.
All right, number 9, this is a resolution that deals with the Finance Committee report on the community funds.
A resolution authorizing financial assistance in support of the endeavors and pursuits of certain community-based entities. This resolution authorizes financial assistance to community-based entities as follows. Dark County Visitors Bureau, $5,000. Main Street Greenville, $30,000. Dark County Horseshoe Ohio State Tournament, $1,500. Dark County Horseshoe Ringer Classic Tournament, $1,500. Fireworks Reserve, $14,000. Union Cemetery, $5,000. Dark County Historical Society, $250. Greenville Girls Softball, $2,700. Back the Blue Committee, $1,000. Annie Oakley Committee, $1,500. And Dark County United Way, $1,000.
Move to suspend the rules and give this ordinance second and third reading by title only.
Motion by Mr. Whitaker to suspend the rules, give this resolution a second and third reading by title only. Discussion? Call the roll.
Brown?
Yes.
Ely?
Yes.
Godwin,
Yes.
Norris,
Yes.
Rogers,
Yes.
Schmidt,
Yes.
Whitaker.
Yes.
A resolution authorizing financial assistance in support of the endeavors and pursuits of certain community-based entities. A resolution authorizing financial assistance in support of the endeavors and pursuits of certain community-based entities.
Move to adopt the resolution.
Motion by Mr. Rogers to adopt the resolution. Discussion? Call the roll.
Brown,
Yes.
Ely,
Yes.
Godwin,
Yes.
Norris,
Yes.
Rogers,
Yes.
Schmidt,
Yes.
Whitaker.
Yes.
And we have one more. This will be an ordinance, correct?
Yes.
Okay. This is an ordinance. This was the second Finance Committee report, deals with that.
An ordinance providing for clerk and clerk pro tem compensation for meetings of council and committees and declaring an emergency. This ordinance establishes compensation for clerk and clerk pro tem at a minimum of 3 hours for all meetings extending or occurring outside of normal business hours. This ordinance has an emergency clause.
Move to suspend the rules, give this ordinance second and third reading by title only.
Motion by Mr. Rogers to suspend the rules, give this ordinance a second and third reading by title only. Discussion? Call the roll.
Brown,
Yes.
Ely,
Yes.
Godwin,
Yes.
Norris,
Yes.
Rogers,
Yes.
Schmidt,
Yes.
Whitaker.
Yes.
An ordinance providing for clerk and clerk pro tem compensation for meetings of council and committees and declaring an emergency. An ordinance providing for clerk and clerk pro tem compensation for meetings of council and committees and declaring an emergency.
Motion to adopt.
We need motion for the emergency clause. Want to do that?
Yep.
Motion by Mr. Godwin. That's what I thought. Motion by Mr. Godwin to adopt the emergency clause. Discussion? Call the roll.
Brown,
Yes.
Ely,
Yes.
Godwin,
Yes.
Norris,
Yes.
Rogers,
Yes.
Schmidt,
Yes.
Whitaker.
Yes.
Move to adopt the ordinance.
Motion by Mr. Rogers to adopt the ordinance. Discussion? Call the roll.
Brown,
Yes.
Ely,
Yes.
Godwin,
Yes.
Norris,
Yes.
Rogers,
Yes.
Schmidt,
Yes.
Whitaker.
Yes.
Okay, that takes care of the ordinances and resolutions. Moving on to new business, a handicap parking space.
I have reviewed the application for special parking for handicap person and subsequent doctor notes for 629 Central Avenue for Emily Jackson. I approve the request for handicap parking due to the insufficient parking on the street. Please have handicap parking sign erected. Sincerely, Chief Eric Roberts.
Very good. Do we need legislation on that, or does that just? Information. Okay, very good. Okay. Moving on to old business, the zoning recommendation. Mr. Law Director, I'm going to lean on you for advice. Where do we go from here?
Absolutely. So it's sitting there in old business, so council can have discussion. But as we had mentioned at the last meeting, given that it either needs to be accepted by 50% or denied by 75%, we kind of fell in a gray area in the middle. And so it's not going to go away until council acts in one way or another.
So do we need to?
So you can have discussion, someone can make a motion either to accept the recommendation or not accept the recommendation. But again, normally if something were tabled, it would go away. This doesn't fall into that because of the criteria that are required for the voting thresholds.
Okay.
So I got a couple things on it. Worked on a few different things today, talked to a few different people. One of the things I would start out with is, we do have a planning and zoning for a reason. That we like to support them. We've supported them in the past. Previously, they didn't want to do the one. We agreed with them and supported them in that. One of the things that we talked about was having a feasibility study done. That has been done. It was done a couple years ago. I know there's another one that's going to be done. But at the same time, it's been done. It's proven that we need it. I spoke to Tanya Beasley out at Fox Run this afternoon for a little bit. There's an 18-month, almost 24-month waiting period to get in out there. And so if that didn't tell you that you need housing, I don't know what would. People want to live there. People don't want to take care of things. And it's very well taken care of there. I will say she, along with managing that, she also manages Willow Place. And so I don't believe that they would be the manager of this one. However, again, having been to the place in Delphus, that place was managed well and well taken care of. Couple of things to think about. Cap and Tanya were hoping to be here tonight, but apparently were unable to make it. But one of the other things, to think about, we have 42 water and sewer hookups. So that's some additional income. I spoke with Erin out at Transit this afternoon, and her belief was that it could also help Transit out by adding business there, especially with it being so close. I know one of the things that, one of the concerns was low income. Like we already have, 6 of them, I believe, in the city. Most of them are not senior housing and have been done long before this council was in. I'm not sure that punishing future seniors looking for a place to live just because of stuff that has been done beforehand is what should be done. One of the concerns was the drain on EMS. Personally, obviously, having worked EMS for a long time, I can understand that. I reached out to Township Rescue. Hunter Oaks in the year of 2022 had 22 EMS calls the entire year. Fox Run had 44. Bendon Way had 68, Wayne Crossing 35, Treaty Manor had 59, and Oxford Apartments had 35. The 2 primary senior facilities equated to, Fox Run was 1.6% of the calls for Greenville Rescue. Treaty Manor was 2.2%. Of the low income, it makes up about 10% total of Greenville Rescue's call volume. But again, with 1.6 and 2.2, while obviously there's a call volume there, I don't know that that qualifies as a drain specifically. So again, I think the need for the housing is there. I think we've answered some of the questions, some of the negativity of it. One of the potential cons of it, though, I'm not sitting up here spewing just for it. A negative piece of it that we certainly should think about is the property tax piece. From a residential perspective, you're not going to get as much property tax as you would from a business. Village Green is getting the city a little over 10 grand a year, whereas Fox Run, I believe, is right around 2,700. And so that obviously is still something to think about. Is it the only thing to think about? Again, I don't think so. But I think there's a lot out there, and it certainly it was very educating today. I'll tell you that.
One of the things I'd like to talk about is that I've been about almost 20 years, I've been taking care of a place called Berkshire. It's 26 condos, and it's kind of what they want to build up there. And it has the garages off to the side, 2 bedrooms. And, they was just finally getting them done. And the place has really grown out there as far as people. The realtors call people out there and ask them if they want to sell their homes. And out of the 26, I think 7 of them now are rentals or investment properties for investment people bought them and made rentals out of them because people want them. They want to move in there and they pay like $800 to $900 a month for rent up there. And they, I think there's a need for something like that here in town. I've talked to some of the people that live there that own the properties and said that, I'd like to move to a place to where I don't have to maintain anything. They don't have to, they're at Berkshire, they have to maintain their flower beds. When a lot of them move in, they say, man, I want to put all these landscape in, I want to do bushes and all that. And about 5 years later, after they live there, they want to take it all out and they don't want to do nothing no more.
Rocks in.
Yeah, rocks in. And, I feel that people don't want to, they want to rent and, don't want to own. And like Mr. Serber talked about, I know Dolores is not going to sell her home, but one of these days I might sell mine and live there. And, and I've talked to people and they said, that they'd sell their home and then it'd be available for somebody to move into it here in Greenville. And a younger couple will buy it and, go to Lowe's, fix, buy things, fix it up, update it. And maybe that'll keep the younger crowd here in Greenville. And, but that's just my take on it. So,
Another thing that Tanya had said this afternoon was she had asked how many it was, and I said 42. And she said, I can hand you 42 qualified applicants today that will fill that meet the income requirements, that, you know, are either single or double, no kids, no nothing, that are going to live there, that are waiting to move into Fox Run, and, you know, just have to wait however long that is. So.
People that I've talked to has had kind of a mixed emotions. One of them was, or a couple of them said that they would think it would be a great idea. I think I talked to maybe 5 people total, and the other 2 of them said they, you know, thought it would be a great idea. The other 3 thought that it was, you know, not a great idea because they didn't want them to turn into some of the other housing developments we have here in town.
Okay. If I may, I'm just going to say, I still hold on to the fact that, yes, there was a study done. Okay, so why did the community, CIC, whatever they are, why did they think that they wanted to do another study? So I'm thinking sometimes we, you know, it's not that I'm not in favor of housing, because I do realize there is a need, but I think we need to have a little more information, and I think the information you provided to me in the study, I would like the opportunity to explore that some more. I'm not, you know, I still think we have way too many of these that, you know, there's just, you know, 6. We have 6. And addressing your visit to Delphus. Delphus is half of our population. They have 1. We have 6. And it's not a matter of punishing somebody, but it's how much will the system bear. You know, that's what I need. I need more information for me to make that determination. And as for, you know, not moving out of my home, you know, when I purchased this home, and in the process, I said, you know, the only way I'm leaving that home is feet first. Please come get me. Or send Derek Fee to get me. You know, but that's just me, you know, and I just think that, you know, I just need to be sure that this is really what we need. And no offense to anyone, that I just need more information. So that's where I stand, gentlemen.
So,
I'm sorry, did you mention how many of the 6 developments are all just senior housing?
So I was just going to say that. So when you look at that, I mean, you got Fox Run and Treaty Manor that are true senior housing. The rest of them, it's multifamily. Treaty Manor is funded, I'm not completely sure how, but it's a different way. It's not funded the same as Fox Run. And whereas Fox Run is very similar to what this would be with the tax credit deal. Fox Run has been there, you know, for, what was it, 17 years, I believe. And so as far as for it to turn into what some of the other ones have turned into, I mean, it's got 17-year history. Still looks pretty good, I think. My opinion, I drove through there today. You don't see trash. You don't see dilapidated stuff. And so, again, you know, yes, there's 6 low income. However, there's 2 primary focal senior housing. And so,
Jeff, we talked when you were up there and earlier on the phone about my concern about the lack of workforce affordable housing. And, you know, I'm beginning to be more concerned about, you know, the numbers you gave, 24 and younger dropped by 12.8%, 55 plus has increased by 12.1%. And that's a concerning number to me, because we have to grow as a community. I mean, we have to have a future. We can't just be dying off and building everything for, you know, senior housing. With that said, I get your points too.
sure. You know, and I think potentially if you're moving some, you know, while Dolores wants carried feet first out of her house, excuse me, you know, you get some others that do want to again, not take care of things and move into a place like that, and, it opens up, potential for, for new homeowners, younger homeowners. And so, yeah. I mean,
At what point then do we stop with this type of project and strive for workforce affordable housing?
Sure.
Because, these are the people that work, these are the people that are gonna have their kids in the schools, these are the people that are gonna, generate more of an income, and that they're not gonna be able to live in a place like that because they make too much. You work at Whirlpool and you're making too much.
Right.
I mean, I get this. I mean, in whatever way this goes, at what point do we stop entertaining these types of projects and start doing what it takes? And I don't know there is no easy fix to it. I mean, in my mind, you got to prepare the way for development and somehow maybe through grants or I don't know where you get the money, but we got to start developing these areas, kind of like what we did on Wagner. We prepped it for development. Now it's been prepped and there's a few things going on there. I like to think in the future, there's going to be a lot more going on there, but it's all ready to go. And we got to do that. In my mind, we got to do that for more housing so this community doesn't die off. If everybody keeps turning 55 and everybody 24 and younger doesn't want to, live here, what happens?
Sure. Well, and so, some of it is we want owner occupied, right? We want homeowners, right? And so whenever that project was started, the Bonanza ordeal was started over on Washington, Wayne, Sater, that, I was part of those meetings where we were assured those were meant to be owner occupied. They're not, they're for rent. And so again, even the best laid plan doesn't work out. And so, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know how to fix that specifically, Jeff.
We only have the answer.
Right.
Like Mr. Brown said, one of the downsides is we're not going to get those real estate taxes like we would for other properties that people are owning. So I think that might be a real downfall too, that we wouldn't have that revenue generated.
On the upside, it's probably more than we're getting for the flat land, I would imagine.
That's possible. And I think it's around 700 a year for the farmland out there, or what's
I think I paid 260, 360, something like that.
for the land out there right now.
Well, we've had a lot of discussion, but is anyone?
And I'll make a motion I'll make a motion that we accept planning and zoning's recommendation.
All right, we have a motion by Mr. Brown to accept planning and zoning's recommendation. Any further discussion? Call the roll.
Brown,
Yes.
Ely,
No.
Godwin,
Yes.
Norris,
No.
Rogers,
No.
Schmidt,
No.
Whitaker.
No.
We continue, right?
Continue on.
Okay, moving on to our council representative for CAP. Community Action, do we have a report for that tonight?
You do.
All right.
Never pass up an opportunity to give a report. Okay, Community Action Partnership. I want to say this is an organization that I have learned a lot about, and they're still maintaining and taking care of people in our community. One of the things that I want to report on is there is an organization, and I do belong to that has taken over volunteering with the, we are the only volunteer organization right now that supports this clothing bank that they have. And one of the things that's been happening over the month since mid-January, Whirlpool and Walmart Corporation made huge donations to the clothing bank. And those donations, they follow the same procedures any other donations there. They are made available to the public at a very nominal cost. I don't know if you ever stuffed a bag somewhere. A $1 bag can get you a lot of clothing. A $3 bag can get you even more clothing, and a $5 bag, which is a black trash bag, can get you a heck of a lot of items. And I'm here to tell you because I stuffed the bags. Okay, so what I'm saying is there are things in our community that do support people who need extra help. So I'm just saying they now have escaped from under the COVID restrictions. Meaning that they're now open to take applications. You can take applications or get applications for assistance, and you can take them into the office. You don't have to mail them. Same procedure follows. They're reviewed, and then action is taken. So this is one of those things that is happening. And I will tell you, the proceeds from the clothing bank, all that money goes into the homeless shelter. So there are things that happen in the community that maybe people don't, you just think about CAP. What is CAP? Community Action Partnership. So I just ask that you open your minds up and think about it. And when you have donations, when you start that spring cleaning, all you have to do is take them to the back door, call the office number, and somebody will come down and tote it inside for you. And then we'll get to disperse it again.
Awesome.
So I ask you to support that too. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, moving on, communications.
We received the monthly reports of January from the Transit Department and Police Department.
Got it. Very good. All right, let's call down the council.
Brown?
I just want to thank everybody for coming tonight. Fellow council members, I appreciate the conversation. While I think most of the time we agree on a lot of things, I think it shows the citizens that we're willing to hash it out and figure it out. And I really think ultimately it's what's best for the city. And ultimately, whatever way it ends up going, I appreciate the conversation. I appreciate the ability to have the conversation without attitudes getting in the way. I think it goes a long way, and with that, I'll pass.
Haley?
Yes, I too want to thank everybody for attending tonight. And I do appreciate the dialogue, that happens at this bench, happens out in the community. Clarence and I've talked on different points and Jeff and I've talked. It's just a matter of working through till everybody is doing just what Brian says. What is best for our community? What looks, what is best? I've spoke to people who say, well, sure, that would be nice, but I don't know. So I'm sort of there. I'm still looking and I'm still trying to figure out how it'll go. So thank you, all of you. With that, I pass.
Godwin?
Yeah, I'd like to thank everybody for coming up tonight. And, Dolores, I appreciated the conversation we had the other day. And, and with that, I will pass.
Norris?
I'll pass.
Rogers?
Yes, thanks everybody for coming up, checking out. We always like people out there in the audience rather than looking at that bare wall back there. And also, as this weather seems to be changing up and down and a little bit of whatever, I've seen several motorcycles out. Please be aware of them. And hopefully the motorcycles be aware of the cars too and vehicles. With that, I pass.
Schmidt?
I'd just like to thank everyone for coming up and sharing your opinions. I know it's not always an easy thing to do to stand there in front of everyone and get up to the microphone and talk. So I applaud you for that. And we got a nice crowd tonight, so it's good to see some involvement. We do appreciate it. And with that, I will pass.
Whitaker?
Yeah, first of all, I want to address what Brian said. I'm kind of torn on this thing. My concern again is where do we stop this kind of project and move toward more workforce affordable housing? And at the same time, increasing our tax base and increasing the possibility of increasing incomes around here and moving towards Greenville's future. We can't die off as a community, and that's what I got to get worked through in this. we gotta somehow come to some kind of an arrangement here, but, second of all, I want to, thank the, high school students who did their painting of the graffiti under the, on the walkway areas in the park. And, somehow we gotta, make sure that that stays painted and no more graffiti. I don't know how we do that, but, there are ways to address it, and, we'll be looking at that, in the future. Last of all, Main Street Greenville has appointed a Dynamo director in Abel Brubaker, who's appointed as executive director at last Main Street Greenville meeting. She will be attending city council meetings every other month to update us. She's also going to be emailing to each council member her monthly director's report to the board. The board, by the way, is now meeting monthly instead of bi-monthly. And we've changed our meeting dates from the third Thursday of the month to the first Wednesday of every month at 7:30 at the Visitors Bureau. So that's where the Main Street Greenville is going to meet. And April has come up with some dynamite ideas. I can't wait to hear about it the next meeting. She's also, I just was encouraged by talking with her the other day. She wants to meet one-on-one with every board meeting, with every board member, and get to know them and get to know all their interests. And she's really going to be someone that's going to stick around for a while. And she's going to make the most of what we just contributed from the community funds to Main Street Greenville. So I think that's it. With that, I pass.
What was the time you need? What time is it?
7:30. 7:30, first Wednesday of every month.
And AM, Jeff, right?
AM, yeah, AM, yeah, I'm sorry.
Just to make sure.
Yeah, it's AM.
Motion to adjourn? All right. Motion by Mr. Brown to adjourn. Discussion. Call the roll?
Brown,
Yes.
Ely,
Yes.
Godwin,
Yes.
Norris,
Yes.
Rogers.
Yes.
Schmidt.
Yes.
Whitaker.
Yes.